www.cipm.org/conference. CIPM. We deliver value through people. Join the conversation on the most relevant issues affecting the workplace, as well as the human resource patterns being positioned to solve them on The Office. Get notifications on available job listings and advice on how to apply from featured experts in the industry every Thursday from 4:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. Let's Talk 91.3.
All right, welcome. It is The Office. This is Lagos Talks 91.3. My name is Michelle Ago. 31 minutes now past the hour of 4. And this is The Office, proudly brought to you by Lagos Talks and the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management. On this show today, just like every other Thursday, we talk about the office as it concerns you, solving problems and bringing solutions to our ever-evolving workspace. And today I'll be speaking with a highly placed professional in the field, and I'm going to introduce her shortly. But like I did say, Lagos Talks, or rather The Office, is proudly brought to you by the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria and Lagos Talks 91.3. All right, let's talk about our guest briefly before we start the conversation. My guest is an experienced managing director and strategic human resource expert with a demonstrated history of working in the food and beverage industry. She is skilled in negotiations, business planning, operations management and training. She possesses strong business development professional skills with advanced certificate focused in human resource management and services from the Cornell University, Ithaca in New York. All right, my guest, ladies and gentlemen, is the CEO, Ace of Diamonds Consulting. Her name is Madame Folakemi Oshinyemi, FCIPM. Hello, ma'am. Good evening. Welcome to the office this beautiful evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. It's a pleasure to
Michelle,
have you.
nice to have, nice that you've invited me here on behalf of CIPM. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, as you know, on this show, we'll be speaking with our audience. We'll be teaching them new things. And there are so many questions that I always ask about getting their careers on the right path, evolving and growing in the office space, and adding value, which is very, very important. Adding value to yourself, adding value to your employers, adding value to your organization, also adding value to your peers as well in the office. And sometimes to navigate and get to the peak of our career or to achieve our goals, we need pointers, we need mentors, we need advice, that can help us reach our goal. And today we're so glad that we have someone like yourself joining us today to help us break down some of the issues we might be experiencing. Today, we'll be talking about managing a multi-generational workforce. And this is a good time to talk about it because everything is evolving. Technology is evolving. Oil and gas is evolving into renewable energy. The workforce is also evolving. There are people who are leaving the shores of Africa to other countries for greener pastures. However, when it comes to generationals, from generation to generation, it also evolves in the office space. And this sometimes, can pose a challenge for HR professionals or even managers in the company. So we'll be talking about how to manage a multi-generational workforce. Now, for clarity, in your term, what is multi-generational workforce? Please help us break it down.
Thank you for that extensive expose into the topic of today. A multi-generational workforce is that we have presently in the world of work, or what I call the workspace. It's no longer workplace because we work from different environments and spaces. The multi-generational workspace has diverse generation And it is very important that we can manage the environment in order to promote the goodwill and productivity and work efficiencies. Why we call it multi-generational is that we have now about 5 generations in the place of work, especially where we'll still have, it depends on the country, and particularly on the skills too, or on the kind of work that you do. Like in Nigeria, the professors and lawyers, I think their retirement age has been shifted to about 70.
Ooh.
So you still have those that we call the boomers one, those who are between 68 and 76, those who are born between 1946 and 54. And if you have the boomers 1 and boomers 2 in the place of work, then you find that boomers are there, boomers 1, boomers 2. We have the generation X, those that are from 1965 to 1980, that were born about 42 to 57 years old. Then the Gen Ys that were born between 1981 to 1996, who are between 26 and 41.
Okay.
And now we have the Gen Zs, 97 to 2020. Now, those 5 generations that we have talked about, we think differently, we talk differently, we see the world of work differently.
Okay.
For those who are boomers, we live to work. For those who are Gen Ys, they work. They don't live to work. They work to live. And, so these things present their own issues. And the issues they present to the workspace can actually result in some form of misunderstandings and conflict with the personal space, conflict with time of work, resumption, the policies in the organizations. So that's why those 5 generations that I've mentioned. And we have the alpha generations coming up. The alpha generations are the ones that are born between 2012 and let's say 2030. Because between 2012 and now is about 10 years.
10 years. Yes, 10 years. Yeah.
Now they cannot work until they are 18. So, and for some of them, they may want to do holiday jobs. So we must get ready for the alpha generation as well. Because when they come, their own demands are different. Their needs are also different in the workspace. So, but let's limit ourselves to the 5 generations we have talked about. So we are all at work now.
Okay.
And that presents a potential conflict.
Indeed. Now these generations sometimes clash, and I would come to the Gen Zs, but even with the millennials, as we call them, those that were born in the 90s, they sometimes clash with those that were born in the 60s or 70s because of different values. Let's just keep it at that, different values and different culture. And for that reason, when we come to the workspace, we experience some type of conflict with communicating and just getting along with one another. And sometimes, like you said, even the policies in the workspace might be a little too much for some to bear. But I just want to ask, what is the impact of having generational mix in an organization? And what advantages does it have? Do we have anything to learn from it? Is this something that we must embrace? Is this something we have to nip in the bud, or is something we have to open up, embrace, and just find a way to work around it? Is there any advantage to having a generational mix in an organization or workspace?
Definitely. I think this is the best thing God has brought our way.
Okay.
And the reason is, I don't know the generation you belong to.
I'm a millennial.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Now, the boomers, let me take an example. When you start work, if your parent is a boomer, 1946 to 54, they are between 68 and 76. My own parents are much older than that.
Okay.
They are the World War II, 1922 type. My father is no longer alive. But the way we were raised at that time was when you resume work, you must go to school, and ultimately work. And when you work, you must bring your first salary home. That's 1, 2. You must split your salary and have some savings with which you can make investments.
Right.
And then as you grow in your place of work, you must begin to make investments of monetary value and also in shares and stocks. So you have this different type of parents depending on your background, bringing you up and giving you this kind of things.
Right.
And then they're also tutoring you about the place of work, how to stand, how to talk, how to put your hands behind your back, how not to look an elder in the face, how not to. Now, all these things were taught to us as the acceptable values. Yes, they went their way all the way good. They're good, but with the generations that we have now, differing way of seeing life and living, the multi-generational workforce presents us with multiple perspectives. Okay. Now, you remember, if you remember in my conversation, what I just said about life, that when you start work, you start saving, you get promoted, you must buy shares, you must begin to save, buy land, and all of that. But is that the best? The generation we have now, they have different perspective. The question they will ask you, because working with some of them, they say, Madam, why do I want to build a house? And really and truly, I also subscribe to that. In our parents' time, when you buy land, there will be a party. When you do the foundation, there will be a party. They will do foundation party. Then when you roof the house, or when you are finished, you will cook. Then when you finish, if you don't know this, please, you can confirm. And then when you move to the house, you do house opening. But this generation now, we just buy houses off plan. That is the millennials, those that are between 26 and 41. They're in the place of work. They don't have time to go and inspect any place, any land, anywhere. We look at, people are saying they want to sell a house. They are buying it off plan. They see the plan. Okay, I don't want this. They alter it. A choice. So you find that we have opinions that are different, but these opinions are also good because they give us different perspectives to life, different perspective, brilliance. Then they have very strong problem-solving skills, abilities. They are not. They don't have this. They are not myopic, and they don't have tunnel vision like the boomers or like some of us would have also. Now they have in the workspace now, they are learning. Those multi-generational issues present us with learning and mentoring opportunities, because you have the boomer, especially if the boomer is a professor or the boomer is somebody who, like a lawyer, they can actually take you back and let you know what was and what led to the promulgation of a particular law or statement that is guiding, or the principles, the foundational, the reason we have these foundational principles. So they can guide us in looking backwards. And then we have learning and mentoring opportunities. So these ones that are there, we had better take as millennials, as Gen Zs, we had better listen to them and take the mentoring opportunities we have with them, because they will show us the things to do. And then knowledge transfer. Knowledge is the best. They are the things you cannot buy with money, but by experience. So you have to experience it and be in the presence or be under the tutelage of those who have the knowledge. So in a place of work, we can begin to transfer this knowledge, either about, the labor law, like we're talking about, there are some things now that have been reviewed out of it, because, when it was first brought up, it was meant for those who are doing those we call workers. And now we have a lot of corporates. So there are things that will not apply, and there are some things that are applied. Then, because we have 5 generations in the place of work, we have unique relationships. Now, these unique relationships, what I mean by that is that instead of us, or the millennials or the Gen Zs, seeing the boss as the godfather. They can see him as a partner, albeit that is if that boomer or Gen X boss is quickly able to step up to the plate, in order that you can understand why this person is saying, like a general greeting, Oga, how far now, how far ma. It does not mean where are you going. It just means, oh, what's going on, what's up, or they tell you what's up. It's not, they don't mean to be insult. It's not an insulting statement to them. But we
However,
can
but
see
don't
that,
you? Yeah, I
yeah,
understand that maybe that is a language of saying hello and just greeting,
yes.
but do you not think there are some values that should just be unshaken, especially as regards our culture, as regards our country, and how we prioritize respect? I mean, good morning, good afternoon seems like something that shouldn't just fade away just because people think it's okay to see their elders in the office or colleagues in the office or senior colleagues, so to speak, and just say hi and hello, how far. That might be a little bit insulting. Do you think we should accept that, or we should correct them and instill these values still in the workplace?
I'm not saying that we should not permit the greetings, the general greetings, because everybody wakes up in the morning and say good morning, ma, good morning, sir, and all of that. But remember that the workspace that we have now is not just that evolved. Every organization have its work ethics, its culture, and the ethics are grounded in the culture before we talk of the vision, the mission, and the value statements. But many of us just look at vision, that's VMV, vision, mission, value statements. But seated underneath that, the foundation of those three, vision, mission, and values, are what? They are, number one, the ethics that sets up the profession or the organization you work for or you work with or you serve in, and the organizational culture. At the very core is the organizational culture.
Okay.
So the culture will define how we do things here and how we speak, how we talk, how we present ourselves. So we're not saying that because we have multi-generational workforce that we should naturally not say good morning or all of that. You know, that came up because I was talking about when you're talking generally or you're in a relaxed atmosphere and because if everything is all tied up, there will be no innovation. People will not be able to think out of the box and, you know, evolve. So those of us who are boomers, either boomer 1 or boomer 2 or Gen X's, we have to understand that yes, when they come to the office, good morning, ma. They say the good morning, ma. They can walk away, or they just say good morning, and you say good morning. So the organization itself they've got to set out to say that this is the way we do things here. And then when we do things this way, and questions come, then we can take a concerted effort or ensure that we want to make a change, all of that.
Now,
and that also.
Okay, I was going to ask because I have loads of questions and very, very little time. What is the, or let me ask you this way. There's a general notion that Gen Zs want to work on their own terms. Let's come from an HR point of view. How exactly should an HR manage this, especially when these terms are against the organization's policies? However, these individual or persons might be talented and needed in the organization. How do you marry Gen Zs or some Gen Zs wanting to work on their own terms and on an environment or an organization that has long-standing policies? How can the HR, because it can be confusing for the HR who's trying to secure talent, but also trying to live up to the policies of the organization. What would an HR do in this situation?
I would say when we are contracting, at the time that the Gen Z or millennial is coming to the organization, we have onboarding process. And during that onboarding, the Gen Z is evaluating and seeing, okay, is this a kind of place? Is it a place I want to work? Is it a great place to work? And that is why our values in the organization must come forward. We must be frontal about who we are and how we do things. Now, when we're talking about the Gen Z wanting to work on their own terms? Are we speaking about the timing of turning assignments in? Because number one about managing these generations is that we must be clear. There must be clarity in communication. And why we're talking of clarity in communication is when we give assignments, or when we say we dress down. Let's use that example. When we say that in this organization on Fridays we dress down, we must be clear about the limit of our dress, our dressing. These are the things we will allow to be done. In some workspaces like fintechs, that they don't need to see, or people don't present physically to people. Or some of us working in where you are, the radio stations, except for radio stations now that we are virtual, that people can see, and then we have to dress in some way. I'll say that we have to be clear to say that, well, in this organization you can dress down, but this is the policy. We don't permit skin revealing clothing, garments, and then we state them clearly. Permit me.
Okay.
Howbeit, you can't dress down with your polo neck. You don't need to wear tie. Your shirts, you don't need to. We have to define it.
Okay.
And let them know clearly.
Some people, for example, especially many of the Gen Zs, they have piercings, facial piercings, things that your fathers, like you said, who was born in the 1920s, will never ever accept from his children or even his grandchildren. But right now it's almost a norm. Facial piercings, colored hairs, and different dressings, tattoos, revealing tattoos. And many of these Gen Zs really do not care because they feel they have options. If you don't accept them in your company, on to the next one, they move on. Are you saying that companies should be a little bit more flexible, especially like you said, especially when it comes to creative spaces like radio stations or fintech companies or art, music, acting, and so on and so forth? But what about the banks, for example? Because there was a time where, if you work at the bank, you cannot be allowed to keep your beards. That's changing now, though. But I can't imagine a Gen Z person working in a bank and having this thing. So how well can we truly evolve while also maintaining some level of sanity, really?
Well, if you heard me when I was talking, I said when I started, I said when we are contracting at the earlier stage, we should explain the kind of workspace we have. You mentioned the banks. Okay, in the hospitals, those who are doctors, medical doctors, I believe they have a code of practice. And HR in that workspace knows that the way they will dress can impact their patients. And also in the bank. And the wearing of beards in the banks, like you have it, I think they have a limit. It can't be bushy and all of that. Maybe it can just be to the skin. It will be defined. So at that stage, we can have that done. However, I'm moving on to say, depending on the space the work is, yes, they can be ready to move on, but we as HR must also introspect and begin to redefine. If this person comes to this workspace where maybe I'm in manufacturing or the art, in the art environment, creativity, they'll tell you that's part of creativity. And the way they dress really doesn't matter. They can wear t-shirts with a lot of prints on it, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But when you're coming to a place like a law court, you cannot, because those ones have regimentations, or it's regimented the way they can do things, well defined, well outlined, and so you cannot go to become a medical doctor, I think, or to the court and have facial piercings. So it must be part of their decisions. But in other spaces, like in other workspaces, we had better start thinking of accepting some of these things. One, but remember I said clarity. Our policies, what can we accept, especially where these are brains or these are people that we really need or we will want to work with. This afternoon, I saw a young man with, he shaved the side of his hair and the middle was cut into small plaited. And I just smiled, you know, shaved the side clean and the center of the hair, that's where the hair was, and he wove it. If he's going to maintain it clean, keep it tidy and neat, and come to the place of work, yes. And then, you know, they're general, we have to just redefine it. And we must have policies that will speak to these requirements of these generations. But it is also dependent on the workplace or workspace. If you work in the office of the president or in a place where, okay, United Nations, anywhere, I believe that even in the United Nations, they are taking a look at all of these issues. It's not only here, it's in the world. And you have them all over the world. They're presenting, wearing slacks, wearing trainers to work and all of that. But the facial piercings, it depends on where we are presenting ourselves. In some areas, it may be offensive to the people you are serving. And you know, we have cultural, ethnic, and also traditional and religious. Those four actually are issues for us, especially in Africa. So you dress in a particular way, it may offend my religious values. And so, but HR has this, do I say, complex or complexity in the workspace, and we must work with it. And that is why some organizations define that, look, one, here, we have no ethnic. We don't belong to any ethnic grouping. Two, we have no religion. So whatever you are, whoever you are, just keep your religion outside. And so we don't need to dress in a religious way when you come to these organizations. But some will say you can come with anything. So it all depends on the culture. Remember, I mentioned 5 things: the culture, the ethics, the values, the vision, and the missions of the organization.
All right. Let's see if we can take one call before we go, because we are out of time. You know what to do. Phone lines are 0809 191 3913, 0809 222 0913, 0809 191 3913. You can also call the landline numbers as well on 01 515 0913. 01 515 1913. These are the numbers to call. Remember, we're speaking with Madam Folakemi Oshinyemi, and she is the CEO, Ace of Diamonds Consulting, and she's our guest today. All right, let's take this call. Lagos Talks, good evening.
Good evening, Sandra. My name is Tunde, and thanks for what you guys are doing. I mean, I've followed through from Sanvita.
Thank you.
So much so that our company actually sponsored the ice cream company that supported the last edition. So I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. Very proud of this, because I think this is how to put some culture and some different plans to raising children, and seeing that, look, you can be articulate, you can be educational, you can be intellectual, and achieve what you want to do. So I just wanted to call today. Thank you for what you guys are doing, and hopefully we'll be able to support the next edition again.
Right.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Folakemi, any last words before we go?
Well, I would just say that there are a lot of benefits from having this multi-generational mix.
Yes.
And the benefits are inexhaustible if we are able to define what we really would want from the place of this workspace and from this team. And how we can do that is, number one, HR must improve. We must have what we call the employee value proposition. This is what that is very important in the life of this generation. What value are you going to offer to them? And we have to fine-tune our hiring process so that we are not monolithic. We are not just looking at, oh, this person must have a 2-1. What is it going to deliver? Or because it's wearing sneakers to work, it's not a good performer. Let's look beyond that. We must create learning opportunities for them because they are very smart. They get bored easily. And so we must obtain feedbacks from them. We must create learning opportunities that just make their work to be very interesting to them. Then accommodate diversity in the place of work. We can't just be rigid because the world is moving on. Before we know it, so that they don't leave us at the, we don't realize, we don't be in the boat and then we realize that we've left the creek without a paddle. So it's very important for us to remove or combat the stereotyping that we have and nurture inclusive work environment. It is very, very important. If we don't, then the Gen Zs, remember I said we are the alphas, they are telling the Gen Zs, the alpha generations, those born between 2012, 2013, and this present age or in the next few years, you will find that they will even be much more fierce in their demands of having what they want given to them. So we have to cater to the need, to the different communication styles and different requirements of this multi-generational workforce that we have in the workspace in order that we can overcome the challenges that is with this generational mix that we have.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This topic, like you said, is inexhaustible, especially as regards to benefits. And I'm hoping that we can have a part 2 of these because there are many questions to be asked. The world is changing, like you've rightly said, and we have to keep up with the times. We have to do better. We have to think of new ways to diversify and make people's job more interesting, to keep them interested. But there are others who do argue that, hey, the former generation, the older generations were just as smart, maybe even smarter. They had better values and they're still excellent. They made the world what it is today. So what's so special about the Gen Zs? There are different sides to this argument. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to exhaust or expand this topic a little bit further. But I do appreciate you, ma'am, for joining us today on the program. We've definitely learned quite a lot. The phone line's buzzing, so I think we can squeeze in one last call so you can quickly respond to this caller before we do that. Lagos Talks, good evening.
Good evening, Michelle.
Hi, welcome. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Sebastian.
All right, Sebastian, in 30 seconds, let's make it quick.
Yeah, he did raise a very big point, because I have kids who are adults now, and what I've learned from them, like in their 20s, what I've learned from them, just sitting down to just interact with them, is amazing. It's amazing. Different ways of doing things, and you give them a little thing and they'll turn it around for you. But they are the type that will want to lie down, sleep, wear slacks, wear sneakers, do their hair, but they are very, very smart. So we need to start adapting to that because that is where we are at the moment.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sebastian, for that question and for that comments rather. All right, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope we have you back soon on The Office. All right, she is the CEO, Ace of Diamonds Consulting. And coming up next is Critical Thinking. Don't go anywhere. The conversation continues.
Look, there's no easier way to say this.
Ma, thank you for joining us. Hope we have you back soon sometime. Hello?
Hello.